Hello and welcome to Murrayfield Me, a love story by Bruce Aitchison from Happiness is Egg-Shaped. And today we are actually just going past Murrayfield on the tram because today is an away day. Today is Twickenham Me, a love story. I lived right next to Murrayfield Stadium and I got on the tram. I went past Murrayfield, I got to Waverley Station, and then I got on a train heading south to London City to meet people I'd never met before, all because of a social media invite that I don't think anyone actually expected me to accept. Sean Phelan, big handsome Sean from Fill Your Boots, who's backstage now pressing the buttons and pulling the strings to make these pods happen, made contact on Twitter. And we just started to chat and we were DMing each other because through Happiness Egg-Shaped and through Fill Your Boots, we shared those great rugby values and we were trying to help people in clubland make rugby happen, as Sean has been doing for years very, very well. And his club, the mighty Rakel Decca, had been invited to play touch at Twickenham. And Sean had just said in a throwaway comment, do you fancy a game of rugby at Twickenham? So my response was, hell yeah. And then he said, where are you based? And I said, Edinburgh. He went, oh, sorry. I was like, no, don't say sorry. I'm coming. I'll get there. If I get to play rugby at Twickenham, I'll be there. So what had happened was the gargantuan social media giant of Rugby United had been asked if they wanted, through Dove Men Care, a company they'd been working with, to come and play touch at Twickenham. And they weren't able to do it. So they'd passed the baton on to big handsome Sean to say, well, Sean's in London. He's got access to players. I'm sure he'd be dead keen to put together a squad. So obviously, Sean, a chance to play at Twickenham, why wouldn't you? He sends an invite to a faceless guy that he's kind of made contact with on Twitter and said, do you fancy a game? And he's taken him up on it. Yeah, I'll come to Twickenham. I'll come and play. That sounds pretty cool. So the plans were afoot and off I went. I made contact with the Cabbage Patch pub and I tagged them in every picture on my journey south and I made sure they knew I was coming. And then eventually they replied with a tweet, just come in and have a beer. Absolutely. So I'm on the train on my way down and I take out my notebook because at the time I was still coaching in clubland and I was writing down teams and I was organising for what was going on and I was making some plans, and the guy sitting next to me, who'd been absolutely silent, said, you remind me of an old sports master I used to have. I was like, oh, well, actually, that's what I'm doing. I'm a And it started the conversation. And then the two ladies who were also seated in our four around the table started to talk. And we spoke about rugby and we spoke about sport. We spoke about teaching. We spoke about school sport. It was an absolute joy and a way to pass the time as we headed south towards London Village. I arrive in London, I've got to get on the tube, I've got to get out to Twickenham, and I arrive at my hotel, pretty tired from the journey, but absolutely high as a kite. Then off I go in search of the Cabbage Patch pub. In I walk, this daft Scotsman, probably a little bit smelly from the long journey south, and I get chatting to the guy behind the bar and he stands me a beer and then another one. So there I am walking around the Cabbage Patch pub, just taking it all in, looking at the jerseys, just having a grand old time, pinching myself. What am I doing in the Cabbage Patch pub on a Friday night? The night before the first Lions test in 2017 against New Zealand. So my instructions were pretty clear. You need to be outside Twickenham Stadium. Just come to the main gates and you'll see us. We'll all be there with kit bags. Okay, it wasn't exactly a red carnation under the clock, but there I go. So I wake up in the morning and I've not taken the breakfast at the hotel because I'm assured there'll be bacon rolls and we'll be able to have some coffees and some breakfast as we watch the game. I'm in. There I am, kit bag over the shoulder, and I rock up outside Twickenham to this group of lads as if they were waiting for a bus just to go down the road to play a regional league game or a pre-season friendly, ready to go. Sun was shining, sky was blue. I'm pretty sure every bird in the city was singing. And this big, giant comes towards me, the sky darkens, and then this big smile from big handsome Sean. Are you Bruce? Are you Sean? Yeah. Shook hands, mates. Mates forever. Mates through rugby. Awesome. I met Andy, met Larry, Robert, Kerry, Nick, top man from Rugby United, James from Rugby Saracen taking the pictures. All good guys, all made me feel welcome just like that. As it is in Clubland, you rock up and all of a sudden you've got 20, 30 brand new mates. But where are we going to play our first game? Twickenham. That's right, HQ. Through the gates we go into reception and the selfies are going wild as everybody gets excited. First stop, changing room. Of course it is. Changing room. Got to dump the bags, haven't we? Into the England changing room. Scotsman in the home changing room. Loving it. Absolutely loving it. This is the good stuff. And then it's up the stairs and in we go. And there's kids all over the place who had also been invited for the rugby, for touch, to watch the game. Sorry, lads. We didn't tell the kids that there was rations on the bacon rolls, so there's no food. You what? There's no food? Yeah, we've just made an order. There'll hopefully be something along in a wee while. Oh, magic. So there we are. And who are we watching the game with? The one and only Jason Robinson. Billy Whiz is there. Decked out head to toe. Dove Men Care, smelling mighty fine. And there we are, watching the game, just having a bit of chat, and then there's a Q&A. Any questions for Jason? Hand goes straight up. I've got a question. Oh, yeah, what's your question? There can be only one for Jason Robinson. Jason, any intentions of being on Strictly Come Dancing? Well, actually, no, don't. I was a bit sad. I'm not going to lie to you. I think he would be absolutely magnificent because after rugby, there can be only Strictly in my world. I love it. We watched the game. We had our Q&A. We'd eventually had something to eat, a couple of cups of coffee, a bit of chat, and then down to get changed. It was like getting ready for an international. Absolutely brilliant in the Twickenham changing room. And then we get to run out onto the pitch and it's touch time. And the referees were unforgiving, shall we say, unforgiving. But I scored at Twickenham. I have scored tries, plural. I have scored tries at Twickenham. It was awesome. First time I've ever done Facebook Live. Big Sean. Bruce, let's do Facebook Live. Okay, so we did Facebook Live. We had chat. It was brilliant. It was just pinch yourself. It was empty, but then it's been empty recently. It was empty for me too. And I scored my first try at Twickenham and probably my only try ever at Twickenham in front of an empty stadium. But I absolutely loved it. And sharing it with all those boys from the Deca, class. Absolute class. Sunshine, blue sky, absolute joy. There was lots of little samples of Dove Men Care. So obviously, being a Scotsman, every penny's a prisoner. Filled my boots. Literally filled my boots. Fill your boots, rugby. Fill your boots with Dove Men Care. I had heaps. Then they fired up the barbecue. Barbecue on the side of the pitch at Twickenham. This is just beginning to get a little bit ridiculous. It was absolutely awesome. And then in for a shower, and it was one of those days. You've all had those days. It was impossible not to sweat. It was so hot. It was impossible to get dried and stop sweating. But it didn't matter because we were so happy. What's your plan now, mate? Well, I need to get a train back to Scotland. Scotland? You came all the way to Scotland for this? Listen, I'd have come a lot further. I got to play at Twickenham. Did you see my try? And then, have you got some time? Do you fancy coming to Cabbage Patch for a beer? Yep. Let's go to the Cabbage Patch for a beer. So there we were, sitting around chewing the fat with my new best mates, my mates in rugby, chewing the fat about what we've just done at Twickenham. We've just played at Twickenham. I then said my farewells. I headed off to catch my train north, a very happy, very tired boy. Memories that are going to last forever. But even better than that, mates. And my mate, big handsome Sean, is still there. It's the only time we've ever met. but we've spoken to each other almost every day, if not in person like this over the screen or on some kind of call, but over Twitter, over Facebook, over WhatsApp. It is non-stop. My best mate, Sean, who invited me to go and play rugby at Twickenham. So for today only, it's not Murrayfield Me, a love story. It's Twickenham and Me, a love story by Bruce Aitchison and my mate, big handsome Sean from Fill Your Boots. If you've enjoyed listening to this, grab us on Acast, Spotify or Apple. Please subscribe, leave a review if you've enjoyed it, and you can catch us on Facebook and YouTube as well. I'm Bruce Aitchison and my happiness is egg-shaped.